The seasons on Earth change because the planet is slightly tilted on its axis as it travels around the Sun. This means different points on Earth receive more or less sunlight at different times of year. If Earth were not tilted, the Sun would always appear to be directly above the equator. The amount of light a given location receives would be fixed, and there would be no seasons. There also would be no need to mark equinoxes or solstices. While the Sun always rises in the east and sets in the west, it appears higher or lower in the sky throughout the year, depending on the season. Around the solstices, the Sun reaches its apparent highest and lowest point in the sky. These correspond to midsummer and midwinter respectively, which are the turning points in the Sun's journey. The term solstice comes from the Latin word sol means sun and sistere means to stand still. Due to Earth's tilted axis, the Sun doesn't rise and set at the same locations on the horizon each morning and evening. Its rise and set positions move northward or southward in the sky as Earth travels around the Sun through the year. Also, the Sun's track in the sky becomes higher or lower throughout the year. The June solstice is significant because the Sun reaches its northernmost point in the sky at this time, at which point the Sun's path does not change for a brief period of time. There are 2 solstices every year, one in June and one in December. These are the days when the Sun's path in the sky is the farthest north or south from the equator. A hemisphere's winter solstice is the shortest day of the year and its summer solstice the year's longest. In the northern hemisphere, the June solstice marks the start of summer. This is when the North Pole is tilted closest to the Sun, and the Sun's rays are directly overhead at the Tropic of Cancer. The December solstice marks the start of winter. At this point, the South Pole is tilted closest to the Sun, and the Sun's rays are directly overhead at the Tropic of Capricorn. A solstice is an event in which a planet's poles are most extremely inclined toward or away from the star it orbits. On our planet, solstices are defined by solar declination latitude of Earth, where the Sun is directly overhead at noon. On Earth, solstices are twice-yearly phenomena in which solar declination reaches the Tropic of Cancer in the north and the Tropic of Capricorn in the south. During the June solstice marked between June 20th and June 22nd, solar declination is about 23.4 degrees north the Tropic of Cancer. During the December solstice marked between December 20th and December 23rd, solar declination is about 23.4 degrees south the Tropic of Capricorn. During a year, the subsolar point, the spot on the Earth's surface directly beneath the Sun, slowly moves along a north-south axis. Having reached its southernmost point at the December solstice, it stops and starts moving northward until it crosses the equator on the day of the March equinox. At the June solstice, which marks the northernmost point of its journey, it stops again to start its journey back toward the south. Why does the Sun move north and south? The subsolar point moves north and south during the year because the Earth's axis is tilted at an angle of about 23.4 degrees in relation to the ecliptic, an imaginary plane created by Earth's path around the Sun. In June, the northern hemisphere is tilted toward the Sun, and the subsolar point is north of the equator. As the Earth travels toward the opposite side of its orbit, which it reaches in December, the southern hemisphere gradually receives more sunlight, and the subsolar point travels south. Solstices now mark the beginning of winter and summer. But because some ancient cultures only recognized these 2 seasons, there was no autumn or spring. The solstices occurred in the middle of the season. Solstices are known as midwinter and midsummer for this reason. Since ancient times, many cultures have marked the solstices with holidays and festivals. The June solstice. In the northern hemisphere, the June solstice occurs when the sun travels along its northernmost path in the sky. This marks the astronomical start of summer in the northern half of the globe. In the southern hemisphere, it's the opposite. The June solstice marks the astronomical start of winter when the sun is at its lowest point in the sky. The December solstice. It is also known as the southern solstice, is the solstice that occurs each December, typically on December 21st. But may vary by 1 day in either direction according to the Gregorian calendar. In the northern hemisphere, the December solstice is the winter solstice. It is the day with the shortest period of daylight. Whilst in the southern hemisphere it is the summer solstice. It is the day with the longest period of daylight. After the solstice, the sun appears to reverse course and head back in the opposite direction. The motion referred to here is the apparent path of the sun when one views its position in the sky at the same time each day, for example, at local noon. Over the year, its path forms a sort of flattened figure 8, called an analemma. Of course, the sun itself is not moving unless you consider its orbit around the Milky Way galaxy. Instead, this change in position in the sky that we on Earth notice is caused by the tilt of Earth's axis as it orbits the sun, as well as Earth's elliptical, rather than circular, orbit. The bottom line of the story. The two solstices happen in June and December. These are the days when the sun's path in the sky is the farthest north or south from the equator. During June it is summer solstice in the northern hemisphere and winter solstice in the southern hemisphere. In other words, on June solstice it is summertime in the UK, the USA, Canada, Russia, India, and China, and it is the longest day of the year. While it is wintertime in Australia, Argentina, Chile, New Zealand, and South Africa, and it is the shortest day of the year. Similarly, during December it is winter solstice in the northern hemisphere and summer solstice in the southern hemisphere. In other words, during December solstice it is wintertime in the UK, the USA, Canada, Russia, India, and China, and it is the shortest day of the year. While it is summertime in Australia, Argentina, Chile, New Zealand, and South Africa, and it is the longest day of the year. To avoid any confusion, solstices are preferably referred to as June solstice or northern solstice and December solstice or southern solstice. Summer solstice is also known as Aestival Solstice. Now you can mark the calendar, when is the summer and winter solstice in the southern and northern hemispheres.